India has suspended new visas for Canadians and asked Ottawa to reduce its diplomatic presence in the country. Let me take that across to Dr. Jaijit Bhattacharya as well. Now, Dr. Jaijit, come in here on, on which way this row is headed according to you. Do you see things getting better, or do you see things spiraling, downwards between India and Canada?
So, I focus on technology and trade, so I'll have that lens when I give you my response.
Yes. Because obviously it's having its impact on the trade already, with that trade deal being called off.
Absolutely. This is a conflict situation, right? It may not be the traditional conflict, but it's a conflict situation. In a conflict situation, when you retaliate, you obviously also harm yourself. So when you fire a missile, you're burning 2 to 3 crores on that missile. So you have to take a call whether you want to take that hit or not. So when it's a non-kinetic conflict, like the one we are seeing with Canada, obviously any action that India takes, any signaling that India does, will obviously have a negative impact on India, and that's a political call we have to take. If we want to walk away from every single conflict, then we become at an international or a global level, we become a purely Gandhian nation, which obviously even Mahatma Gandhi did not opt for when World War I and World War II happened. He actively pushed India into those wars. So there is a hit that we take. We have to decide how much of a hit we want to take. The trade between Canada is about 0.5% of the total trade that India has. Not something to be ignored upon, but it's also not something very, very significant. As one of the panelists mentioned, Canada is a large country with a population roughly little more than the population of NCR region in India. So, the population of Delhi being in half a continent, you can imagine the amount of wealth one has in terms of being able to just mine the land and do nothing. And therefore, their lifestyle that Canada offers is pretty similar to the Scandinavian lifestyle. The work pressure is much lower, the competition is much lower, and much more can be offered to its citizens because it's coming from mining and essentially using the land. That also, we must keep in mind that the erstwhile Canada had actually helped India significantly in our nuclear, technology, and I think we are, grateful for that. However, the nation seems to have changed. They seem to be siding with Canadian terrorists. Now I'm calling them Canadian because they really don't have much to do with Sikhism. They're Canadian citizens, acknowledged by the Prime Minister as Canadian, and they have been indulging in terrorist activities. So these are Canadian terrorists, pretty similar to the Taliban's being Pakistani terrorists. And if the Pakistani government is supporting Pakistani terrorists in the form of Taliban, an Indian government responds to it, it is precisely the same situation. I also truly believe that at some point in time, it will come back to bite Canada the same way it's coming back to bite Pakistan. And I think that is something more worrisome, because we would like to have a strong Canada. We would like to have a prosperous Canada so that we can trade, there is global peace. But if Canada is shooting itself in its foot because it's siding with elements which are harmful for global peace, then that's something quite worrisome. It's going to harm trade, not just with India, but with many other nations. It's also going to harm technology per se, although the Canadian IT market is less than 1/10 of the US market. But the flow of technology gets hit when there is insecurity in a nation. So people who've got the skills will move away from Canada. Clearly they have some good universities, better than what India has. But even students will walk away because security is more important than education. And therefore, they will be opting for, let's say, the Australian universities and so on and so forth. So Canada will surely get hit. In the process, our students will also get hit. It's a political call in terms of how much we want to take as a hit. Our trade will also get hit to an extent. It's again a political call, same as when we go for war. Every bullet that is fired, we are losing money, but we need to fire that bullet. We can't just walk away. And these are political decisions in terms of impact on trade and technology. There will be an impact. But I think India has become and going down the path of becoming extremely large in both the areas of trade and in terms of acquiring technology. So I believe in terms of its impact on India, it will not be as significant as it might have been 20 years back.
Okay, I leave the closing comment to Dr. Jaijit before I take a break.
The situation reminds me of the song "We Didn't Start the Fire." We had a situation where 3,000 people were murdered in Bhopal, and we escorted the murderer safely out of the country. Arms were dropped in Purulia, and we allowed that person to escape. That should not get repeated. And I will therefore repeat what Dr. Kohli is saying. We are really proud of the way the government has reacted. There's an affront to India. If Justin Trudeau was so keen to find out who killed the terrorist Nijjar, then he should have reached out to government of India on a confidential basis. He can't start that conversation in the Parliament of Canada and put himself in a corner to begin with. If he has decided to put himself in the corner, then obviously he'll get punched accordingly. So there is no escaping from it. We didn't create the situation. India did not create that situation. It was a creation of one person, not even Canada. Canadians are a very friendly set of people. It was a creation of their prime minister. And, India has to respond, and there was no other way to respond except the way that the government has responded. And I think every one of us should be proud of the way the government has responded.